Welcome back to the Witchy Concoction spooky tutorial. In this section we are going to do a little bit more setup on this part that we created because of some scripting that we're going to do for when the part touches the cauldron. And then we will also set up the cauldron, which is the touch part, where the player's going to run with that item and touch it. And when they touch the cauldron, the item is like dropped and disappears from the player's hand. And then we'll also set up the ingredients board. We'll do the scripting in the next section. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to this part we created in the last section, and I had named it cross, and we need this to be in the part that is in replicated storage. Remember, we have this part in both Workspace in the Shapes folder and in replicated storage in the Shapes folder. And what we're going to do now needs to be in the part that's in replicated storage, because that's the part that gets cloned to the player. Okay? And so what we're going to add to this part needs to be in that part that gets cloned. So let me find the part named cross. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is the decal that we had inserted into this little part. We want to change the name of it to image with a little I. I named in all of the parts, I named it image. And so I want to change the name of that decal to image, because when we do some scripting later on, the way the script is written, it's going to look for a decal named image. Okay. So that's the first thing. The next thing that we need to do is insert into the image part, this part, which I also named the part image. So right click on that and rename it image. So the part will be named image and the decal inside of it will be named image. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to insert a string value into this part. So click on the plus sign, and then up in your search bar type in string value and it should pop up. So click it to insert it. Okay. And I've already got one inserted into my other parts. Alright, so each of my parts was set up with a specific color, and that's the color that you see right here. Okay, so, and then I took that color, the name of that color, and I enter it in the value field. A string value is text. So I need to look and see what color, what name this color is. So in order to do that, I need to click on that part, and this is called toothpaste. So now I'm going to enter that name into this value field. So if I click on the string value and then go to the properties window and go to the value field, I'm going to type in toothpaste. And this will become clear later on when we start the scripting why that needs to be there, because we're going to use this string value. Okay, and we need to have the proper name in it, and it's a way to differentiate between these parts. Okay, and it's going to tie into the GUI and the scripting. Alright, So you can use whatever colors you want. I've already pre-set up these 7 as they are, and those are the colors that I used. Just be sure that when you do it on your end, you're also doing the proper colors so that it lines up properly with your script when we write it. Alright, for the setup of the cauldron, this is pretty easy, and again, you may not go with the witchy, spooky theme, so you can use whatever you want for your drop part. And when I made this, I made it 2 parts because I wanted the image of the cauldron to be a little bit larger than, it needed to be a little bit taller than the actual part that they touch. That's why I used 2 parts. So pretty much this is really easy. I just insert a part and then I'm going to move it to where we're working. So let me bring it down with the move, and I'm just going to work right here near the cauldron that I've already set up. And then I'm going to change the size, so I'm going to use the scale. And for the image, I just needed kind of a board to put the image on, so I just changed this to a really thin, like, little piece. And I'm going to insert the decal of the cauldron into that part. So I just went to my toolbox, and again, in my decals, I found the cauldron that I made. So I'm going to insert that. You can use whatever you want for your drop part. You may have a different idea. And then I just need to make sure it's on the correct face, so I'm facing the back according to my view selector. So I changed that to back. And you can just now, with the image on here, play around with it until you get it to the size, you know, that you want it to be. And that looks kind of similar. I'm going to move that down a little bit. Okay. And then the next thing I did was I am going to make the part in transparent, so you need to change your transparency property to 1 so that we don't see the part, we only see the cauldron. Okay. And then the next thing I did is I set up another part right next to it, which is going to expand the touch area. Now you can do this several ways. You could probably just use one part and expand this like that. Okay, or what I did is I created a second part. But so if you're following along, you might want to do it the way I did it. Whichever part is the touch part is going to have the script in it. So I just used this as my image. Okay, and then I have a second part, so I'm going to duplicate this part, but I'm going to remove the decal from the second part. And I'm going to create that box that the player is going to touch. Okay, so I have the part with the image, and I have another invisible box sitting here for them to be able to touch. And I named this one TP to stand for touch part. So right click on it, rename, and name it TP. Okay. And then the part with the decal in it, I named it Cauldron. And that's just for being similar to the way I already set it up. The cauldron really isn't doing anything, it's just sitting there. Anchor this part, anchor both of the parts. Okay. Alright, so if I press play, I can run up to this part. This one isn't scripted yet. So it's sitting there, but it's invisible because when I run up with the part, I'm just going to run up to it like this and touch it so that the script runs and operates and executes the way I want it to, because it's based on touch. Alright, so this is really just, you know, it's kind of a basic setup, but you get the idea of what I'm trying to do. If you want to get fancier, you can. Alright, so the next thing we're going to set up is the ingredient wall, and again, you can set yours up differently, but I'll show you how I did this one. So the first thing is I am going to insert a cylinder part, and I'm going to use the move tool to move it to where I want to work with it. And then I'm going to resize this so that it's similar in size to one of these. And there is no set parameter for the size. You know, you can set it up however you want. Go with whatever size you like or looks good to you. It doesn't matter in regards to all the scripting. It doesn't matter what size it is, or for this, it doesn't matter what color or size it is. Alright, so I'm going to change the color to like a brown. And I went with like a kind of dark brown, and then I'm going to change the material to wood. And so I've created one. I'm going to now duplicate it. Well, actually, before I duplicate it, if you like, you know, you might want to name it, and I named these log. Okay, you might want to name it something descriptive. Sometimes it's good to be descriptive, because when you go back to script later on, you can know, you know, a description of which part you're working with. Alright, now I'm going to right click on it and duplicate it so that I have my second piece. Actually, I'm going to, alright, so I've duplicated it and my second piece is sitting right here. Now you can manually move it around, or you can change the position using your properties window. And let's see, X, if I change this by like 20, what's 97.6 plus 20? It's 117.6, so I'm going to type in 117.6. So it just moves it over in that direction. And that might be a bit much. It looks a little bit too big, so maybe I should only move it by about 10. So what was it, 97.6 plus 10, 107.6. So 107.6. Okay, that looks like a little bit too not enough. So 97.6 plus 15 is 112.6. Yeah, that looks okay. That looks, yeah, like the best distance so far. And you can just eye this and do whatever you want. There's nothing set in stone. All right, and I noticed that my logs don't look quite as tall, so I'm gonna go a little bit taller. So that's the Y. So let me go up to 50. Whoops. I think I did position and not size. So let me undo that. Undo. Okay, now I need to go up to position. And I'm going to change Y to 50. Oops, I did the position again. I did the C frame. Let me get in the right field. Size. Okay, no. So X for this, because it's a cylinder, is the how tall this is. Alright, so it was 20, so I'm going to change it to 30. And that's a bit big, so maybe 25. Okay, that looks about right. So now I'm going to change the other one. Okay, there. Alright, and then now for the two top pieces, I'm just going to right click on one of these and duplicate again. And now I'm just going to use the rotate tool. Ooh, not that one, not the blue. Is it the green? Yeah. And then move it over and up. Okay, and just kind of eye it until it looks right. And then I'm going to duplicate this one again, and now I've got the two. Okay, so I've got that same kind of structure look. Alright, and now I need the board. Okay, so that's just a block part, so I'm going to insert a block part. And I'm going to position this I'm going to get the position of this log from my properties window, and I'm going to copy and paste it into this so that it moves it over here in the correct position. So let me go into the properties window of this log, and I'm going to copy the position. And now I'm going to go into this part and I'm going to paste it. And so it moves that block where that log is so that it's lined up correctly. And now I'm going to change the scale of it because it needs to be thinner for what I'm doing, to be more like a board, and right now it's kind of sticking out too much. So okay. And now I'm going to expand it to fit in this square. Okay. Alright, that looks good. And then I'm going to put a background on this, so that involves getting a decal. And you can use any background that you want. I was going for something that looked a little bit, looked good with the theme I was using. And this is just something that I had made, a picture I had made externally and in a photo editing program, and then I imported it into Roblox. You can use, whatever you want. So I'll just grab something and insert it into that part. And I need to change the face property so that the decal actually shows on the proper side. Okay. And this decal doesn't actually cover the entire board. So, you know, it's personal preference on really what you put on your backdrop. You don't even have to have a decal. You could just change the color of the part, you know, and just have all your items sitting up on a blank board. This isn't very centered, so I can play around with the offset and the scale. And that didn't do it. I'm trying to pull it down so it's a little bit more center. So I'm messing with the UV offset and the Y. 0.1 brings it down a little bit, but then it brings it too far. So now I'm going to try negative 0.05. Oh, there we go. That did it. Okay. So then the parts would go up on the board. So this is the part right here. And so I'm just going to move it. So to move this, you just click on the move up at the top menu bar. And you know, just put it up on the board wherever you want it to sit. And you can position each of them, you know, however you want. And I may tilt it a little bit. Okay. Now make sure all of the parts are anchored. So I don't think I did that, so I want to go double check that they are anchored. For the ones I just created. So these both need to be anchored. And this needs to be anchored. And then this needs to be anchored. Okay. Alright, and now to get the ingredients word up on the top, like right here in between this blank space, I'm going to insert a part up here. And the easiest way to do this will be to just copy this board right here that I made. And then rescale and resize it. So just find that part in your Explorer window and right click it and duplicate, but then remove the decal. And using the scale, make it smaller and then move it so that it's in position. Okay. And make sure it's anchored. It is. It's already anchored because I duplicated the part that I had just anchored. And again, it's personal preference if you want the background to show. When I made it up here, I made this part invisible. So if I were to do that, I just need to change the transparency to 1. And now I'm going to insert a surface GUI. So when you're in the workspace, when you're on the base plate and you're building, and you want, for example, text to show on an object, you use surface GUI. So I'm going to click on the plus symbol in my Explorer window, and I'm going to type in surface GUI. and then insert a text label into the Surface GUI. So again, click on the plus, find text label or search for it, and insert it. Okay? And then in the text label now you just need to set up the properties for how you want it to look. So also you need to change on your Surface GUI, you need to change the face so that it faces the proper way. So, whoops, what did I just do? I'm going to hit undo because I don't know what I just did. Alright, we're changing the face of the Surface GUI, and I changed it to back because that's the way I'm sitting right now, so you can just look at your view selector. Alright, and now we can see that text label, so we can see we need to make it larger. Okay. And let's see how I set up this text label, the one that I already did. So I changed size to 1,0, 1,0. So I'm going to go into this text label and I'm going to do the same thing. 1 for the X, on scale put 1, for the offset put 0, and then for Y, for the scale put 1, and for the offset put 0. And that made the label cover this entire part. Now I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to change the text to ingredients. But that's very small, so I want to make it larger, so check the checkbox next to text scaled. Okay. And then if you want to change the font, you can go to the font base and click on the drop down, and I think I used Luckiest Guy for the font. And then you can change the color of your text. So my text I used, I think, kind of a purpley, a blue and a purple. So for my text color, I'm going to change it to maybe like a dark blue. And then for my text stroke color, a purple. And then, oops. Where's my outline? Text stroke transparency is set as 1. We need to change that to 0, because if it's 1 it doesn't show up, so we need to change it to 0 to get the outline to show up. Okay. Alright. Now that's pretty much the board. So if I test, if I hit play, I should be able to run over here and see that my object is sitting up on the board. And I thought I made the background of that transparent. Let me go look at that again. Your text label background needs to be transparent, so background transparency for the in the properties of the text label, change it to 1 if you want that to be transparent. Okay, you can do all kinds of things. I mean, like if I wanted, I could make this board transparent so that only that decal shows. So really, when you're building and customizing, you can do whatever you want, whatever you like. Okay. Alright, so that pretty much concludes this section of the tutorial. This was just a little bit more setup, showing you what you can do and how you can build something that looks similar to what I've already got. And in the next section, we are going to script the touch part. We're going to do the script that goes inside of the touch part. So I will see you in the next section.